Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Te Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Ananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Reading from Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 23. The personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of a devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting the holy name, releases the devotee from bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Yoga means concentration of the mind detached from all other subject matter. And actually, such concentration is samadhi, or 100% engagement in the service of the Lord. And one who concentrates his attention in that manner is called a yogi. Such a yogi, devotee of the Lord, engages himself 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord, and so that his whole attention is engrossed with the thoughts of Lord in ninefold devotional service, namely hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, becoming a voluntary servant, carrying out orders, establishing a family friendly relationship, or organizing all that one may possess in the service of the Lord. By such practice of yoga or linking up in the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord as it is explained in Bhagavad Gita concerning the highest perfection stage of Samadhi. The Lord calls such a rare devotee the best among all the yogis. Such a perfect yogi is enabled by divine grace of the Lord to concentrate his mind upon the Lord with a perfect sense of consciousness. And thus, by chanting his holy name before quitting the body of the yogi, is at once transferred by the internal energy of the Lord to one of the eternal planets, where there is no question of material life and its conc- concomitant factors. In material existence, a living being has to endure the material conditions of three poles of miseries, life after life, according to his fruitive work. Such material life is produced by material desires only. Devotional service to the Lord does not kill the natural desires of the living being, but they are applied in the right cause of the devotional service. This qualifies the desire to be transferred to the spiritual sky. General Bhishma Dev is referring to a particular type of yoga called Bhakti Yoga, and he was fortunate enough to have the Lord directly in his presence before he quitted his material body. He therefore desired that the Lord stay before his view in the following verse. Text 24. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as the rising sun, is smiling, kindly await me at the moment when I quit this material body. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Bhishmadev knew well that Lord Shri Krishna is the original Narayana. His worshipable deity is the four-handed Narayana, but he knew that four-handed Narayana is a plenary expression of Lord Shri Krishna. Indirectly, he said Lord Shri Krishna to manifest himself in his four-handed feature of Narayana. A Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior, although it was 100% certain that Bhishma Dev was approaching Vaikuntha Dham just after leaving his material body. Still, as a humble Vaishnava, he desired to see the beautiful face of the Lord after quitting the present body. He might not be in the position to see the Lord anymore. A Vaishnava is not puffed up, although the Lord guarantees his pure devotee entrance into the boat. He is Vishnu as long as I do not quit this body. This means that the great general would quit his body on his own will. He was not being forced by the laws of nature. He was so powerful that he could stay in this body as long as he desired. He got this benediction from his father. He desired that the Lord stay before him in his four-handed Narayana feature so that he might concentrate upon him and thus be in trance in that meditation. Then his mind might be sanctified with thinking of the Lord. Thus, he did not mind wherever he might go. A pure devotee is never very anxious to go back to the kingdom of God. He entirely depends on the good will of the Lord. He is equally satisfied even if the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. Regardless, Bhishmadev wanted this much only, that his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord and that he passes away. That is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Text 25. Srila Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishmadev speak in that assembly tone, asked him in the presence of all great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. Srila Prabhupada, Bhishmadev speaking in that appealing tone convinced Maharaj Yudhishthira that he was very soon passing away. Maharaj Maharaj Yudhishthira was inspired by Lord Shri Krishna to ask him of particular of and Maharaj Yudhishthira was inspired by Lord Shri Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. Lord Shri Krishna inspired Maharaj Yudhishthira to ask Bhishma Dev in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that Lord's devotees like Bhishma Dev, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages. Even Vyasadeva. Another point is that Bhishma Dev at the time was not only lying on the deathbed of arrows but was greatly aggravated because of that state. One should not have asked him any question at that time, but Lord Shri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. And thus, any circumstances a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. Yudhishthira also preferred to solve his problematic questions by asking Bhishmadev rather than ask anyone else present there who was seemingly more learned than Bhishmadev. This all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier Lord Shri Krishna, who establishes the glories of his devotees. The father likes to see the son become more and more famous in himself. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotees is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. Text 26. At Maharaj Yudhishthir's inquiry, Bhishma Dev first defined all the classifications of caste and orders of life in terms of individuals' qualifications. Then he systematically in twofold division described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The conception of the four castes and four orders of life as planned by the Lord Himself is to accelerate transcendental qualities of that individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage and or conditioned life. In almost all Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit. So, also in the Mahabharata, it is more elaborately described by Bhishmadev in the Shanti Parva, beginning from 16th chapter. The Varnashram Dharma is prescribed for the civilized human being just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self realization is distinguished from the life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Vishwadev advised to all human beings nine qualifications: not to become angry, not to lie, to equally distribute wealth, to forgive, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife, to be pure in mind and hygiene in the body, not to be inimical towards anyone, to be simple, to support servants and subordinates. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above mentioned preliminary qualities. Beside these, the Brahmana, the intelligent man, the administrative man, the mercantile community, and the labor class men must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent man, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. The intelligent man controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex intelligence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means that he must take a study of Vedic literature, especially Srimad Bhavatam, and okay, an intelligent man abuses the great qualification if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means that he must seriously take a study of Vedic literature, especially Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. The Kshatriyas, the members of the administrative class, is specially advised to give charity and not to accept charity in any circumstances. Modern administrators raise subscriptions to some political functions, but never give charity to the citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras, but must not take to the profession of teachers. The administrator should never pretend to become non-violent and thereby go to hell. When Arjuna wanted to become a non-violent coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man for his avowed acceptance of the cult of non-violence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes only. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the warfield. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative classes turn into a gang of mercantile and labormen, the whole machinery of the government becomes polluted. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile community, are especially advised to protect the cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk production, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff of the primary are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of the protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given charge of the protection of the animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of a barbarian society. For a human being, agriculture produce, fruits and milk are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to the animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of a man, namely rice, wheat, grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables. The production of machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of the class of vested interest and keep thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. The Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant for rendering sincere service. The Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant to for serving sincere service to the three higher sections of the society. The Shudra class can attain all comforts of life by rendering service to the higher class. It is specially enjoyed that a Shudra should never bank money. As soon as the Shudra accumulate wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the pollution is degraded to less than Shudra quality. The highest caste should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras, and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Shudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servant satisfied in all respects. The Shudra first of all be satisfied with the sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor laborer is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus satisfied, and so they make agitation. The Varnas are, so to speak, classifications of the different occupations of ashrama dharma. Is the Varnas are, so to speak, classifications of different occupation, and ashram dharma is gradual process of the path of self-realization. Both are interrelated, and one is dependent on each other. The main purpose of ashrama dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The Brahmachari ashram is the training ground for the prospective candidates in this ashrama. It is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living being. The conditioned soul under material bondage are prisoners of matter and therefore self-realization of the ultimate aim of life. The whole system ashram dharma is a means to detachment. One who fails to assimilate this spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely renounce, and thus live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep the body and soul together for ultimate realization. Household life is one who is attached, is for one who is attached, and the Vanprastha and Sannyasa orders of life are for those who are detached from material life. The Brahmachari ashram is specially meant for training both the attached and detached. Text 27. He then explained by divisions of He then explained by divisions, acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of the king, and the activities of salvation. Then he described the duties of a woman and devotees, both briefly and extensively. Sri Prabhupada's purport. To give charity is one of the householder's main function, and he should be prepared to give charity at least 50% of his hard-earned money. A brahmachari or student should perform sacrifices. A household should give charity, and a person in retired life or in the renounced order of life should practice penances and austerities. Those are general functions of all the ashramas or the order of on the path of realization. In the brahmachari life, the training is sufficiently imparted so that one can understand that the world as property belongs to the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. No one therefore can claim to be the proprietor of anything in the world. Therefore, in the householder, in the life of a householder, which is sort of license for sex enjoyment, one must give in charity for the service of the Lord. Everyone's energy is generated or borrowed from the reservoir of the energy of the Lord. Therefore, the resultant actions of such energy must be given to the Lord in the shape of transcendental loving service for Him. As the river draws water from the sea through the clouds, again go down to the sea. Similarly, our energy is borrowed from the Supreme Source, the Lord's energy, and it must return to the world. That is the perfection of our energy. The Lord, therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita 9.27 says that Whatever we do, whatever we undergo as penance, whatever we sacrifice, whatever we eat, or whatever we give in charity must be offered to Him, the Lord. That is the way of utilizing our borrowed energy. When our energy is utilized in that way, our energy is purified from the contamination of material inabilities, and thus we become fit for our original natural life of service to the Lord. Raj Dharma is a great science, unlike modern diplomacy for political supremacy. The kings were trained systematically to become munificent and not to be merely be tax collectors. They were trained to perform different sacrifices only for the prosperity of subjects. To lead the prajas to the attainment of salvation was a great duty of the king. The father, the spiritual master, and the king are not to become irresponsible in the matter of leading their subjects to the path of ultimate liberation from birth, death, disease, and old age. When these primary duties are properly discharged, there is no need of government of people by the people. In modern days, the people are in general occupy the administration by the strength of manipulated votes, but they are never trained in primary duties of the king, and that is not possible for everyone. Under the circumstances, the untrained administrators play havoc to make the subjects happy in all respects. On the other hand, these untrained administrators gradually become rogues and thieves and increase the taxation to finance a top heavy administration that is useless for all purposes. Actually, the qualified brahmanas are meant to give direction to the kings for proper administration in terms of the scriptures like Manu Samhita and Dharma Shastras of Parashara. A typical king is the ideal of the people in general, and if the king is pious, religious, chivalrous, and munificent, the citizens generally follow him. Such a king is not a lazy, sensuous person living at the cost of the subjects, but alert always to kill thieves and dacoits. The pious kings were not merciful to dacoits and thieves in the name of nonsensical ahimsa, non-violence. The thieves and dacoits were punished in an exemplary way so that the future no one would dare commit such nuances in an organized form. Such thieves and dacoits were never meant for administration as they are now. The taxation law was simple. There was no force, no encouragement. The king had right to take one-fourth of the production made by the subject. The king had a right to claim fourth. कैश तो नहीं है बेटा 200-300 ही है हाँ तो ये 100 इधर रखे हैं ले ले हरे कृष्णा The king had to see that the reserved energy of the humanity was properly utilized. Human energy is not meant exactly for fulfilling animal propensities but for self realization. The whole government was specifically designed to fulfill the particular purpose. As such, the king had to select properly the cabinet ministers, but not on the strength of voting background. The ministers, the military commanders, okay, I think I missed a line. Okay, Hare Krishna. One would never grudge. The king had a right to claim a fourth of one's allotted wealth. One would never grudge parting with it because, due to the pious king and religious harmony, there was enough natural wealth, namely grains, fruits, flowers, silk, cotton, milk, jewels, minerals, etc., and therefore no one was materially unhappy. The citizens were rich in agriculture and animal husbandry, and therefore they had enough grains, fruits, milk without any artificial needs of soap, toilets, cinemas, and bars. The king had to see that the reserved energy of humanity was properly utilized. Human energy is meant not exactly for fulfilling animal propensities, but for self realization. The whole government was specifically designed to fulfill this particular purpose. As such, the king had to select properly the cabinet ministers, but not on the strength of voting background. The ministers and the military commanders and even the ordinary soldiers were all selected by personal qualification, and the king had to supervise them properly before they were appointed to their respective posts. The king was specially vigilant to see the tapasvis or the persons who sacrificed everything for the disseminating spiritual knowledge, even even never disregarded. The king knew well that the Supreme Personality of Godhead never tolerates any insult to his unalloyed devotees. Such tapasvis were trusted leaders even of the rogues and thieves who would never disobey the order of tapasvis. The king would give special protection to illiterates, the helpless, and the widows of the state. Defense measures were arranged previously to any attack by the enemies. The taxing process was easy and it was not meant for squandering, but was for strengthening the reserve fund. The soldiers were recruited from all parts of the world and they were trained for special duties. As far as salvation is concerned, one has to conquer the principles of lust, anger, unlawful desire, avarice, and bewilderment. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. To be free from unlawful desire, one should know how to make plans. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. By tolerance, one can conquer desires and ways. Disturbances from various diseases can be avoided by regulated diets. By self control, one can be free from false hope, and money can be saved by avoiding undesirable association. By practice of yoga, one can control hunger, and worldliness can be avoided by culturing the knowledge of impermanence. Dizziness can be conquered by rising up, and false arguments can be conquered by factual ascertainment. Talkativeness can be avoided by gravity and silence, and by prowess, one can avoid fearfulness. Perfect knowledge can be obtained by self cultivation. One must be free from lust, avarice, anger, and dreaming, etc., to actually attain the path of salvation. As far as women class are concerned, they are accepted as a power of inspiration for men. As such, women are more powerful than the men. Mighty Julius Caesar was controlled by Cleopatra. Such powerful women are controlled by shyness. Therefore, shyness is important for women. Once this controlled value is when this control valve is loosened, women can create havoc in the society by adultery. Adultery means unwanted children known as Vana Shankara who disturb the world. The last item taught by Bhishma Dev was the process of pleasing the Lord, pleasing the Lord. We are all eternal servants of the Lord, and we forget the essential part of our nature. We are put into material conditions of life. The simple process of pleasing the Lord for the household, especially, is to install the simple process of pleasing the Lord for the household, especially, is to install a deity of the Lord at home. By concentrating on the deity, one may progressively go on with the daily routine work. Worshipping a deity at home, serving the devotee, hearing the Srimad Bhavatam, residing in a holy place, and chanting the holy name of the Lord are all inexpensive items by which one can please the Lord. Thus, the subject matter was explained by the grandfather to his grandchildren. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय